Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Amy plays a wiretapping, and she copies its hideaway ability with Strionic Resonator. On her next turn, assuming she has an appropriate number of cards in hand, what will happen when she's instructed to play the exiled card? Alright, so for this question, let's first notice that it is possible to copy the hideaway ability with Strionic Resonator. As you can see here, in the comprehensive rules definition for what hideaway means, we do see the word win, which means that this does count as a triggered ability. So it would be possible to copy this ability with a Strionic Resonator as required. When Amy does this, that's just going to mean that she does the hideaway 5 part an additional time. So she would look at the second 5 cards from her library and choose an additional one to get exiled and put the other 4 on the bottom of her library. This is a little bit different from hideaway 10, so be careful there. Now let's take a look at what's going to happen when Amy is instructed to play the card. And first, we'll take a look at exactly how hideaway works. All the hideaway cards work the same way in that they all have what's called linked abilities. This means that the ability that lets you play the exiled card is linked to the ability that exiles the card. And that means that the ability that lets you play the card is only going to be able to let you play cards that were exiled with the hideaway ability. Fortunately, as far as the game is concerned, if you copy the hideaway ability, then the copy is going to be just as linked to the thing that lets you play the card as the original hideaway ability would. So there's not going to be any obstacles there. Now, if you take a look at the text on the wiretapping or any of the other cards like it, it's not going to be super duper helpful as far as understanding what we would have to do if there were multiple cards that were exiled. It just says you can play the exiled card, and there's no explanatory statement about what you might get to do if you have more than one card exiled this way. Fortunately, the comprehensive rules have our back on this one. As you can see here, in this sort of a situation, when we have something that refers to the exiled card, then that is going to actually refer to all of the exiled cards, which means that in this case, Amy would get to play all of the cards that were exiled using the hideaway ability for this wiretapping. Only this specific wiretapping though, if Amy has multiple ones, then the cards that were exiled with them could only be played with the linked ability corresponding to the wiretapping that actually exiled those cards. So, with this being the case, you might be wondering, okay, well, what would happen if Amy used her Strionic Resonator again on the triggered ability that lets her play the exiled card? And, well, that one's not going to be as cool. You would not get 2 copies of all of the exiled cards, because when you play the exiled card the first time, then it won't be exiled anymore. And that means that when the second instance of the wiretapping ability tries to let you play the card again, well, there isn't going to be a card exiled, and so that means that it's not going to be able to do anything. There's a couple of more things related to hideaway that I wanted to mention in this episode before I sign out. These aren't really related to the original question, but I did want to talk about them here because the hideaway mechanic has changed in a couple of material ways since the last time that we saw it. And no, I'm not just talking about the fact that it's now possible to hide away for numbers other than 4. So the first thing is that the hideaway mechanic used to mean that this permanent enters the battlefield tapped. However, that has been taken out of the comprehensive rules definition for what hideaway means. And so that means that wiretapping and all of the new hideaway cards will not enter the battlefield tapped. In case you're wondering, all of the old hideaway cards have received errata that gives them this enters the battlefield tapped as an additional ability. So the functionality of all of those cards is not going to change at all. Well, at least because of that. Actually, there is one other change that they made to hideaway, and that does represent a functional change even for the old hideaway cards. It used to be that when you were putting the cards on the bottom of your library with hideaway, then you could put them in whatever order you wanted. Now that's been changed so that you put them on the bottom of your library in a random order. I'm guessing that they did this to make the hideaway cards work smoother on the digital clients for Magic, but one other consequence of this is that they now no longer synergize nearly as well with other cards like, for example, Grenzo. But that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.